Hello everyone and welcome to this very special edition of NMIMS Indore podcast. I am your host Kavyan Srivastava and today we are truly honored to have Mr. Gautam Munjal, the founder of Minimalist Hotels, a brand that has redefined India's hospitality industry with its design-led, culturally immersive experiences. Recognized by Architectural Digest India and Forbes 30 Under 30, Mr. Munjal is a dynamic young entrepreneur who chose the path less traveled to create the country's most exciting hospitality ventures. Sir, we are truly honored to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for calling me here.
So, sir, if you are comfortable, can we start with the questions?
Of course, please.
So, sir, firstly, let's start with the beginning of the journey. The time when the idea of minimalist hotels came into existence. We have a few glimpses that it started from your trip, backpacking trip back to 2016 to Central and Western Europe.
Yes.
So, can you please expand on this story and let our viewers know what was that exact very moment that the idea of minimalist hotels came into your mind?
Right. So, I'll just go like a few more years back as well. I spoke about something in the talk as well, which is my exchange program experience in Europe, where I was traveling with people I didn't know. These all were strangers, and we were traveling together for about 2 to 3 months. And we were hopping, of course, hostels and different accommodations as well. And this idea of community living, of people coming together, staying at a space which is designed forward, is something that really appealed to me. One thing led to another, but I was traveling quite a lot every year, almost, to my friends who were in Europe, etc. But the tipping point was what you mentioned, was this one trip where this was a time when I was still at Oyo and I was traveling in Europe, and I was with 5 of my friends, boys trip. We were staying at this crazy place which was like a chemical factory turned into a 700 capacity hostel. And I could see 16-year-olds to 65-year-olds in the same place. So people were playing ping pong, people were meditating, some people were doing yoga, all in this one place. And they have the concept of social kitchen as well. And this was a hotel. This was a hotel come hostel. And it just felt like, wow, what a place to be. And that's something that really resonated with me, that if I was to do something like this in India, and probably at a smaller scale as well, it would be so cool, because there's such a big gap in the market, right? There's a big gap in the market for disruptive, community-focused places where you're not scared to talk to the person on the other table if you're sitting in the cafe of that place, right? Which in probably bigger hotels you can't do that, right? So the inception was, I wanted to create something which is design-focused and which brings people together. My tipping point was, in this room, 5 of us were staying, and then I tell my friends, I was like, guys, I have an idea, I have a place in mind, I want to do this. And everybody in unison said, just go for it. So yeah, some friend support there at the inception stage was crazy, but that was the biggest tipping point where I said that I don't know when am I going to do this, but slowly but surely I am going to dive into doing this for sure.
So in India at that time, there was no other brand doing this?
There were, of course. It was all nascent stage, basically. It was all very early days in the industry. The idea of backpacking was very rare, of course, as well. I think it's still, it's progressing now, of course, but it was an outlandish thought to, take your bag and be on the road for about a month or stuff like that. Today, we've repositioned ourselves to be this community-led hotel brand. We are for as much business travelers as well as leisure travelers as well as backpackers. And we try to sort of create spaces which combine all this audience together, right? So to answer your question, yeah, there were other players, yes.
And so your journey has been really unconventional. It started from studying law, then working 3 years at Oyo, and then starting an entrepreneurial journey with Minimalist Hotels.
Right.
So how do you think these knowledge of different fields, experience of different fields helped you in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think all these stages of my life were so crucial. I think studying law, of course, gave me the clarity. Today I write my own contracts, right? So that's one thing, and one thing that studying law definitely does is that it, elocution-wise, like your capacity to speak the right words at the right time is something that law teaches you really well. And I understood that, so there's been a great contribution of whatever I studied in law to my entrepreneurial career. OYO taught me hustle. I think that, and I joined OYO at a time when OYO was probably less than 100 people, and it grew within 2.5 years to more than 10,000 people. To give yourself to an organization and work 14, 16 hours a day, I did that because I was just loving what I was doing. There was great hustle, I was learning so much, and you solve problems, you firefight every day, and the whole culture of being in a startup, I was so addicted to it. And then my only reason to step out was because I wanted to build something on my own, and I thought I've had my time of preparation because I wanted to build something on my own, and building a career was never really my thing. I wanted to build a life where I create something. Because early on itself, I just fell in love with the idea that I want to create something that I create a legacy for.
So, sir, this was a really disruptive idea, and when you implemented it, there would have been a lot of hurdles. Like, if it is difficult to think such an idea, then it is far more difficult to implement it. So, what were some of the major hurdles that you faced in your journey?
Multiple. Yeah. I mean, I understood the business of running a hotel. I did not understand the operations as much. I did not have an experienced team behind me or with me to run a hotel operationally, to run F&B, and to basically the average age of my team at that time and even today is probably 26, 25, 26. So the hurdles were plenty. There are, of course, when you're entering a business like this, there are multiple compliance hurdles. There are hurdles to do with staffing, how do you solve problems on a daily basis as well. But look, for the first 6 months, I was the front office guy myself. I was the housekeeper also myself. I even went into the kitchen, made breakfast for our guests as well. And those experiences really shaped me, where I was like, nothing is small and when you're at your own journey, every step counts, right? And I believe a certain sense of obsession with customer service is so important in today's time. And another thing that I truly believe in is that, and in hospitality, it's often said that customer is God. I highly disagree with that. I think customer is human and we are humans serving humans. That's how it should be. Because this whole concept of Atithi Devo Bhava, for the time that it was, I think it was great. But for the generation of today, our average consumer at a minimalist hotel is 30 years old. They don't want to be treated as gods. So the idea is that we're humans serving humans, and that's how it is. Because the moment I make my customer into God, my staff is going to be scared that we're serving God, so the jobs are on the line. So we keep it easy going. That's how it should be. Yeah.
So, sir, as you know today, every industry is hitting its peak. Like every industry is touching new levels of innovation, new heights of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is that advice that you would like to give to our viewers as well as budding entrepreneurs across the country that they must inculcate in order to have that disruptive feeling and forward planning in them?
I think curiosity is really important. I think knowledge sharing. For me, at a time when of course startups was a buzzword, it's an industry, a big industry in itself. But like, go out there and don't stop yourself from going to conferences, for going to summits, for going to meetings, for basically open your mind to endless possibilities. I think that is one of the major things. And I would go back to the point that I said in the talk as well, that the moment you feel that you found your true calling, you just go at it. I think that becomes, and especially in today's time when there's so much information out there are so many possibilities out there. Today, if you're wanting to do something in media, tomorrow you might want to do something in another space, in hospitality probably. But I feel that if you've really chosen a path that where you feel that you truly belong, stick with it. And then there are endless possibilities. About disruption, I would only say that be updated with trends. That's really important. And if you're a curious mind, you will know what is of value to you and what's not. Because there's so much content out there which is not worth it as well, right? So yeah.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your stories and insights with us. Is there any last piece of advice that you would like to give to our viewers?
No, I mostly mentioned everything except that I would say that I go back to the point of finding your true calling and having no plan. Like that is really important. And a lot of times in our lives we try to push ourselves into doing something when we know within ourselves that we're not prepared. In college, I tried a few ventures as well. Because I was just so curious, I was like, okay, let's do it and let's see how it is. But preparation is really important as well, and even like something that I would end on the note saying that slog it out and prepare yourself before you run the long marathon. Practice is practice is the real prayer. That's what I would say, and do not stress over risk taking because that's who we are as Indians, right?
Thank you, sir. That would really be helpful. Thank you, sir, for joining us today and sharing your insights with us. To our viewers, I hope you enjoyed this podcast as much as I did. Stay tuned for more such podcasts. This is your host Kavyan Srivastav signing off.